Hello, everybody. This is Ryan from I Try Running Programs, and we're into the fourth week of the Higdon Advanced One Marathon Training Program. And much like last week, a relatively simple week where you have two workouts and a long run with a fair amount of easy mileage to begin the week. So it starts off with a 3-mile run, progresses into a 6-mile easy run, 3-mile easy run, and then a couple of work days split by rest, and then a simpler long run. So when we jump into the overall training for the week, that broke down to roughly 41 miles. I think most people would find that they'd run quite a bit less with the way that they do hill workouts. You know, I hate to be a broken record, but for those of you who are new viewers, Hal Higdon recommends that your hill repeats be roughly in about the 400-meter distance, whereas I do them at about the 1.1 mile distance based on the hill that I run. So every time I go up and back, that I'm basically doing, you know, about a mile or so total for the repeat itself. Okay, so in terms of the runs this week, there's a couple of times that my watch and my Strava app decided to kind of break down on me. So the first two runs were basically done around 8-minute pace of the 3 and 6 mile runs. Did another 3-mile easy run, this time a little bit faster, not particularly sure why. I think it was just one of those days where you know, I think I came out a little bit later than I wanted to, ran it a little bit harder because of that, but nothing too major to report. You know, pace was relatively flat throughout, which is something that I've noticed a lot with my easy runs is I'll start really, really slow and then pace up as I go, where I could just keep it easy the entire time. So I really would prefer to see that my easy efforts be roughly more near the 8-minute pace mark, just to make sure that I'm not overdoing it. And the reason being is near the end of last week and a little bit into this particular week of training, you know, I did have a light Achilles strain that I was dealing with. And I think it was because at times I was really pushing it too hard on certain workout days. And so taking the easy days lighter just to get more of an active recovery would have been beneficial. But for whatever reason, I just had that tendency to overrun them in terms of just putting too much effort towards them at times. So it's something that I'm mentally trying to work on. Usually I use my beats per minute as an indicator of if I'm overdoing it on certain runs, but because my Fitbit Versa 2 has been basically on the fritz in terms of connecting to Strava and even connecting to my phone's GPS, it's just been an inaccurate tool to use for running. So I've been using the Strava Android app, which gives me limited data to work with. And as you can see, it's either very accurate at judging my pacing, or most likely it's kind of skipping with the GPS and it's not actually accurately keeping the pace going. So that's really the downfall of being reliant on my phone to track my runs, is that ultimately you're dealing with the data not being as complete as it possibly could be. Okay. Now moving into the first workout of the week, this was the hill repeats that I did. You can see that overall they look relatively pedestrian in terms of pace. You know, the overall workout was 10.5 miles, but you can see that there's a lot of upticks, and this is when I'm starting to hit certain hills. So as I'm going up this street in Salinas, Constitution Boulevard, it's roughly about a mile, a little bit longer, as I alluded to before, and it's a very gradual uphill with a couple of small spikes. And because I'm running the California International Marathon, and that's a very rolling course, this is why I do this workout this way. I'm pretty much kind of breaking the rules as Hal would recommend them, but in my case, I want to get that type of work in and get some more medium distance runs where there's some actual rolling up and downhill to work on. So overall, I think the workout went pretty well. I know I wasn't feeling particularly great this day for whatever reason. Something I've been kind of dealing with in this training is I've been really so focused on losing weight that I think sometimes some of the yohimbine supplementation that I'm using is not sitting well with my stomach on every day. Most days it's not a problem, but there's just that occasional day where it just doesn't work with me. But by and large, it did go well for the first couple of repeats, and you can see that I slowly start to slow down in the middle sections. But overall, not too bad. And I did break it up and do a couple of repeats on another hill. In fact, this particular hill that you can see here that kind of shoots out in that kind of semicircle might be really where I do my hill repeats moving forward, because it's a very distinct incline, whereas Constitution kind of rolls a little bit. This is all uphill the whole time. So it's a little bit better from a training stimulus perspective, in my opinion. So I might change it where I do half of my hills, like maybe use Constitution a couple times as a warm-up, and then use this particular side street to do some harder hill reps. I haven't decided fully on that yet, but we'll kind of see as it goes. As I'm adding more and more hills, that might also help us in diversification. So I'm not just getting bored running up and down the same hill 7, 8 times. Okay, now moving into the long run, I moved it a little bit earlier. Normally this would be another kind of pace effort day, but I moved my long run to fit with my work schedule a little bit better. Overall, pretty simple day, kept it right in the 8:30 pace. Relatively consistently. You can see some miles I jumped a little bit above that. I did finish a little bit faster, which I like, since the middle miles I was somewhere around the 8:40-ish pace for most of those miles, and the final 4 miles I kicked it down into about the 8:20 to 8:15 range for the last 3 to 4 miles. So overall, a pretty good effort here. I like this a lot. I felt great. This felt extremely easy. I went out really early in the morning and felt great the whole time. And this is what I would prefer to see on my long runs, is somewhere around that 8 to 8:30 pace. I'm still aiming for about a 3:05 marathon this year, if at all possible. And so having an effort like this that's really easy and is showing that the training stimulus is kicking in and making these types of efforts really easy to achieve is a good sign. So I was very, very happy with this overall, felt good the whole time. So as longer long runs come up, it will be a better indicator of how things are going. But Kate easily ran this way faster and just didn't, because I didn't need to. I knew I had a more heavier training, kind of tempo type run coming up the following day. Well, actually, I should say a gold marathon pace run. Now, this was prescribed as a 6-mile run by Hal. Ultimately did not get the full 6 miles in. And I don't really remember what, I remember the reason, right? Because my Android app stopped working. I was like, I knew there was a reason. It froze at the final stop line I was at. But in terms of how it went overall, some other good indicators popping up once again. So Strava thought that during this run that I had my second best estimated 5K effort. And I've talked about this in previous videos. I think my 5K time and both my 10K time will continue to get chipped away at during this training cycle because they're so soft. They're events that I don't train for. I generally train for half marathon or longer runs. And also Strava thought it was a little bit of a faster 2-mile effort, my third fastest time in that. And you can see that for the first 4 miles, they were all right around 6:50 or faster, which was good. The only thing that really kind of didn't work out incredibly well near the end is I started to get a little bit tired coming uphill. This is a very minor gradual uphill section, but I would have been fine to finish it out. I was not, too tired or anything like that, but I was slowing down a little bit. So, that might be an indicator that 6:45 or so-ish range might just be too hard to handle over a longer time frame, whereas this 7:10 felt really easy at the time of running it. So this is why I do think that 3:05 is relatively more sustainable, because I think 7 and above is very, very easy in that 7 to 7:15 range. Once I start to get down to the 6:45 or faster phase, that's where I start to feel a little bit more burn on the run overall. By and large, though, the overall run went well. So this is another good indicator that things are going well. I think the speed work, the way that Hal does it, this is why I think I'm such a big fan of this program so far, is that, he does have somewhere between 2 to 3 workouts per week, and they're just not that difficult to achieve for most runners. Even a novice runner could do this advanced plan if they're running enough miles leading up to it, because the overall training is not that difficult to do. And this is why I think this is such a good plan. If you're trying to try a more advanced plan, this might be a good starting place, because you could try this and then jump into a more higher mileage plan, like a Brooks Hansen plan or something of that nature. So overall, a pretty good week. Things I think are trending well. And I will catch you guys in the 5th week training update once I have that done.